Welcome, Matt from Jaggers Brewing Co. Today's project is going to be a Czech / Bohemian Pils, and here it is. I know I've kind of been showing this off a little bit on Instagram, and I really want to talk about this beer. It's pretty clean, pretty clear, a little bit of chill haze. Notice that over time it clears up. I've been kind of battling some clarity with this, and we'll talk about it here in just a moment, but I really wanted to talk about the importance of this beer real quick before we dive off into anything in particular on it. So the history behind me wanting to brew this beer is we have family that is, you know, first, second, third generation American from Czech, and so once that side of the family found out that I brew, I started hearing stories during all these family get-togethers about one of the older members back in the, I believe it was 50s, 60s, 70s era, was homebrewing himself. And so I kept hearing stories about, you know, that they were a brewer, it tasted like this and whatnot. Unfortunately, the original source wasn't available for me to kind of dissect, and so, you know, I'm hearing these, you know, like firsthand but over a length of time experiences and stuff, and then, you know, second, third hand, and etc. So after some time and trying to figure out what it was that was being brewed, I hit a lot of stumbles and walls there. You know, I started kind of looking into some like farmhouse saison kind of things. The family grew up on a farm, you know, in rural Texas and stuff, so I thought that was a possibility. To tell you the truth, I really just kind of came up with nothing. But this beer is more or less a tribute to that side of the family. You know who you are. And cheers, guys, to y'all. It's kind of a fairly important one to me. You know, I chose the Czech style, the Bohemian style Pilsner, because you know, they're from Czech, and it just kind of made sense. I thought maybe that was a possibility of something that was trying to be recreated. Like I said, not entirely sure, but here's the beer, and I have entered it in a few competitions, still waiting for those results to come back. I entered it under a couple different categories that I'll list below, just because I kind of feel like this beer turned out to be kind of like cross interval there. So from my research, everything that I had done, you know, Czech Pils, Bohemian Pils can be used interchangeably. I don't really think that there's any difference. I think it's just, you know, kind of one is, you know, or like half a dozen, you know, 6-to-1 kind of scenario. So as far as the head goes, as you can see, it kind of dissipated pretty quickly. Got a little bit of work to do there. As far as the clarity goes, though, try to get some of this moisture off the glass. As I said, still pretty clean, pretty crisp looking. As you can see, it kind of cleared up a little bit more than when I first originally poured it. I ended up using this BIOFINE stuff here when I kegged it, a lot like I did the pre-prohibition lager. So I just wanted to try to get this thing as clean and crisp as I could. So off the nose, got a little bit of the lager crisp profile that I've picked up before on you know, Pilsners and lagers and stuff like that. Picking up a little bit on the malt and the SAAZ hops, some more herbal than I have before. You know, normally with SAAZ I kind of pick up on the earthiness, the spiciness, but this is kind of more herbal seems to kind of blend pretty well with the malt profile that I'm picking up. So this is definitely leaning towards more of the medium bodied profile. Kind of have a good, nice malty profile to it too on the finish. So it kind of goes like that sweeter malt profile, right? And then it kind of finishes very herbal, pushes into the spiciness, and then a little bit of earthiness, not like you know, like the clove phenols or anything like that. I don't pick up any on the yeast character. There is a little bit of like just a tad sharpness, and I guess that's from the lagering. I do detect just a tad bit of sulfur too on the back end, and so maybe that's kind of blending in with those like the hop profile of that earthiness, spiciness. It's not like super piercing, it's just on the very back end. So I mean, for a first shot at the style, like I'm really happy. Like I said, it does need a little bit of work. I'm not displeased with it though. So I brewed this with the idea that, you know, I wanted something to drink during the summer as it warms up and stuff like that. Something a little lighter, crisper, you know, kind of moving away from the stout territory. Here we're at the very end of April right now, and you know, days are getting longer, they're getting warmer, and I wanted to have, like I said, something that was kind of more thirst quenching, that wasn't gonna fill me up and stuff like that. I think I've got a pretty good beer here. Like I said, needs a little bit of work, little fine tuning, but really overall I'm pleased with it. I think it was a very good first attempt. I can't wait to brew this again. Unfortunately, the bad part about lagers is you have to wait so long. You know, I mean, there are things that you can do to kind of speed them up, but I'm really trying to buckle down to do things to style and etc. So that way I can pick up on those things once we start looking at some of those shorter cut type scenarios and tips and techniques and whatnot. To note, I mean, the color I think is brilliant. And let's talk about the grain bill real quick. So to note, I did end up a little higher on the gravity when I went into the fermenter. It was supposed to be at 1055. I ended up at 1060. Originally I had done the recipe to take into account my cooler mash tun. I was gonna, you know, sparge and all that. Last minute decision was to do brew in a bag, and I'm pretty happy, I guess, with having a little bit more of the higher gravity there. But next time I think I'm going to stick to the plan as far as that goes. I did choose to do a single decoction on it. And for our malt bill, which is super easy, it was 100% Bohemian floor malted Pilsen. I just did that thinking like, let's try to make this to its quote-unquote truest form, right? I figured with the decoction that we would add a little bit of complexity and a little bit of color, which I think we did. I think it's got a nice malt profile to it for sure. and I think it mixes pretty well with those SAAZ hops. So this is pretty much turned into be a smash beer, right? You know, we've got the single hop, we've got the single malt, single yeast strain. So I think it was good to go there. For the water profile, we chose the yellow balance profile. And let's see here, so we did 100% Bohemian Pilsen. Then I did the decoction. So to note on the decoction, when I went to go transfer everything to the pot, I used the original pot that I got in my Northern Brewer kit for extracts, and it was taking a while to boil. I kept smelling something weird, so I looked at it and I had a very small pinhole in the bottom of that kettle, so I had to hurry up and make some adjustments there. I had to run into the kitchen, get a different pot, transfer, you know, that stuff, and then I ended up deciding to just go ahead and doing that on the stove top, so that way I wouldn't, you know, ruin another pot on my burner there. I guess I've just done too many decoctions in that thing. I've used it too much, and it finally wore it out. It's kind of a sad day to see that thing go, but I mean, I got plenty of use out of it, you know, 8-ish years. So after the decoction, we blended everything back into the regular mash, brought it all up, pulled the grains, did a mash out on it, you know, all the typical stuff that you're supposed to do with this. So for our first bit of hops, we did a 60-minute addition of SAAZ, 16 IBUs, which you know, was just over an ounce, almost an ounce and a half of SAAZ hops. And then we did a 15-minute addition for Whirlfloc tablet, a 10-minute addition for the yeast nutrients. Then we did, let's see here, 2.4 IBUs of SAAZ again. And we cooled everything down. I used the Wort chiller. Again, this is something that I'm trying to do to really try to push these, you know, cleaner, crisper, lighter beers, especially the ones that I want to put into competition. I've made some pretty clean and clear beers without the Wort chiller, but I wanted to get that yeast going. With this being a lager, you know, I definitely wanted to make sure that we had more than enough time to get going. And, you know, with the lag time sometimes of like lager yeast and stuff, I really wanted to get some yeast on that, get it going as quick as possible. So I pitched 2 packets of the Bohemian Lager from White Labs, 21-24, to get it going. And then let's see here, for the fermentation schedule, it's here in my notes, give me 1 second. Flipping around every which way. You thought that I would have made better preparations, but I did not. So we pitched at 48 degrees. I let it free rise to 50. I held that for 72 hours. After that, I let it come up naturally to 55. I held that for 72 hours. Let it free rise to 60. I held that for 48 hours, and then free rise to 65, and then I held that until fermentation was complete. I crashed it, I kegged it, and at that point in time, like I said, when I kegged it, I used this BIOFINE just to try to get that as clean and clear beer as possible. So with all that being said, I'm pretty happy with the way that this thing came out. It obviously needs a little bit of work, especially one with head retention. I think that we have maybe some small off taste, especially if I'm detecting a little bit of sulfur, right? I'm not smelling any DMS with that malt there, that malt profile. So I'm pretty happy with that. I guess that little bit of sulfur that I'm picking up probably comes from the yeast, right? You know, so I probably need to do a little bit better job of there. Maybe pitch a little bit bigger of a starter on that to get it going. Maybe bring down those fermentation temperatures just a little bit more. But all in all, I really think that it's got a good balance as far as the hop and malt profile go. It's definitely interesting for sure. So I fought some clarity on this, and I talked about it a little bit in the pre-prohibition lager video. And so that pre-prohibition lager had a broken O-ring on it, and so I had to move all the kegs out of the keezer, you know, get it all cleaned up and everything. So I ended up shaking this thing up a little bit, so it took a little bit longer for this thing to really come back to the clarity. It sat around in the keezer for a good 3 weeks, month before I really, you know, tapped that keg. I had it carbonating and everything, and then I couldn't stand it any longer either, and so I had a glass or two of it. Was extremely happy with it. It's going to be kind of fun to see how this thing places. I know in one competition I put it under 3 different categories. I kind of feel like this thing fell between at least 2 of them. Sometimes when it comes to those category entries, you end up entering what you brewed and not what you intended to brew. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for coming to check us out. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel. We're growing at a pretty good rate. I'm happy to see each and every one of you guys come by and check us out, like the video, the commenting. People follow me on Instagram for more of those day-to-day you know, shenanigans that I get into around here. But cheers to each and every one of you guys. Just cheers to everybody.